Hi, James Markey here, Head of Sales for Virteasy Dental, and with the new release of Virteasy Dental 2020-06, I want to take you through Virteasy Editor. Standard exercise is for the workshop and restoration, etc., and implantology allows us to use CT DICOM scans. So the overview page, my first exercise, we'll call this, and here I can put the overview notes for the simulator as well. Now I can choose my own image for the exercise, so if I go in here and choose one that I created earlier, and at the bottom I can choose the level, so this might signify the difficulty of the exercise, for instance. And as we go ahead, instructions, so here I can leave instructions and lesson notes for the students, and this one's page 1, because each page we can add in images. So we can illustrate what we need to do. It'll take the previous image by default, but you can change that for each page. Page 2, comments, and you'll see we have different information for each one. We can now go along to step 3, solid creation. So here's where we're creating what it is we're working on. At the bottom, we've got the library, so we can choose from a 3D scanned micro CT from all the adult teeth, and with this version you'll see now we have deciduous teeth at the bottom as well. So if I choose tooth number 81 just there and load it up, you'll see it loads up the dentine, the enamel and the pulp separately, so we can actually play around with it and use this to show the anatomy of the teeth, and we can make all of these come back as well. So we can change the transparency, which is the percentage just here. So you can see I've made the dentine 100%. And just to the left, we have the density. So if you want to make the dentine harder, for instance, in the simulation, you just tweak this value. They're automatically set at the defaults, which should be pretty good. And you can also change the material and their colors here as well. So you can bring in adjacent teeth. You could bring in a whole jaw if you really wanted to. But here we're going to bring in some adjacent teeth and create the exercise for those. So there they are. And one of the previous features was down here you can take a snapshot from the 3D view, and that's going to replace your overview image. So to help you not have to create additional stuff yourself. We can also import a surface. So if we have our own STL, like I do here, we can import them into the software. And lastly, at the bottom, show the scene marker. That shows you where, for these exercises, the plateau, the plate, will be within the scene. So that gives you an idea of the rotation of the teeth that we're working on. Once we're happy with that, we can move over to step 4, the caries creation. Now again, we can import an object that we've created or we found online perhaps. But we also have a library of geometric shapes. So here I can import the shape of a cone. And what you do is on each of these views, if you find the center of the gizmo, it'll turn red, and just click and just drag it across. If you need to recalibrate the position within the graph, just double click, and that will bring across the position to where you are. So you see these have updated, so on the sagittal view I can click and drag and bring this up, and at the top of each gizmo, if I click and drag, that's what changes the rotation. So I've put the cone in for our caries shape, and what I'm going to do is bring in another shape. So here I'm going to use a semi-sphere, because for this exercise I want to create a bit of a umbrella shape, I guess. So I'm going to have the semi-sphere sitting just on top. And I'm going to increase the transparency of these so I can see them through the dentine. There we go. So I see it just there underneath the enamel. I'm just going to raise it a little bit further. There we go. So I'm actually going to change the rotation. So we've got the caries coming through on the side of the tooth. And to go back to the other one, I just click Edit Surface on the model. And again, I'm going to drag that across and rotate it and bring that across. There we go. So they're more or less matched up, and I could spend a little bit longer playing around to make sure I get them perfectly. But when you're happy with the basic shape, then we can move across to the target creation. So the caries affects the density, so it's going to make it softer to drill through, just like in real life. And the target is for the evaluation. So for restoration, often we just copy the caries, and that is our base target. But what I can do is, after I've copied it across, I can choose, say, the semi-sphere, for instance. And in my 3D view, you'll see this multicolored gizmo going through. If I click one of the arrows at the end, I can actually enlarge it. So then I'm asking the students to remove a surface that's slightly larger, or here much larger, than the model of the caries. So again, just click, and then click again and drag to change the size. So I'll make that slightly smaller. And just like before, you can actually change the position as well. So I'll bring that up just so it sits nicely on the surface there. So if you want to, you can also update the overview with your 3D image, or you can import another model as well. But once you're happy, you can move across to number 6, the assessment. In here, you can choose what you want. So if I choose accuracy and target for this exercise to be measured against, don't worry so much about the assessment number. This would usually just be number 1. But for implants, for instance, we might have multiple implants with different criteria. But for here, I'm going to set the threshold as 70% for the accuracy. So that's how much we remain within the target area and we don't remove outside of it. And the target progress, so how much of that target that we set is removed. So the simulator will just score the students here as a pass or fail if they hit the threshold of 70% or higher. The next one's optional. So do you want to customize a toolkit for the students? And to do this, you can just double click each one as you go across. So the students will only have access to the toolkits on the right. But if we don't use it, they have access to the entire range of tools, including implantology, endodontics, for instance. And lastly, the export. So my first exo, and we can choose the category. So here I'm going to put restorative. And if I wanted to, I could change the smoothing that happens to the 3D images. Now, don't worry, this is set to a default, so usually just try that. Click Save. That will create the STL file, which is the 3D image. It'll also create the haptic file, the haptic solid, which allows you to touch the solid within the simulation and feel as if you're actually touching it. So that's all for the standard workflow, and we'll do another video straight after for the implantology. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.